In every corner of the world, there exists an undeniable truth, one that transcends the boundaries of culture, time, and space. But this truth has often been obscured, deliberately hidden or reframed, to keep us from seeing what is real. The message you are about to explore is not about elevating any one person or ideology above another, nor is it meant to crown the few with an undeserved sense of superiority. It is, instead, an invitation, a call to look inward and to peel away the layers of conditioned beliefs that may have kept you from seeing the world and yourself in their truest form. For centuries, history has been shaped not just by what was remembered, but by what was conveniently forgotten, dismissed, or suppressed. These constructed truths are more than just misrepresentations. They are tools of control, meant to maintain the status quo and protect those in power. From the ancient civilizations that encoded their wisdom in mythology to the modern institutions that control information, the truth has often been altered to fit the narrative of power. We live in a world where the masses are fed simplified versions of history, identity, and existence ideas that are easy to consume, easy to digest, but not necessarily true. But what if the truth we have been taught, the narrative that has shaped our worldview, is incomplete? What if there is more beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? What if the truth is not something that can be dictated to us, but something we must find for ourselves? This message aims to awaken that inner curiosity, that yearning to know more, to understand the complexities of the world, and to challenge the established narratives that have been handed down through generations. Awareness is not about accumulating more facts or data. It is about perceiving the world through a lens of openness, humility, and curiosity. It is about becoming conscious of the unseen forces that shape our lives, whether they are social, cultural, or internal. Awareness is the foundation of growth, because it invites us to step out of the passive state of acceptance and into an active role in shaping our destiny. It is not an attempt to tear down everything you know, but rather to invite you to question, to reflect, and to seek a deeper understanding of your place in this vast, interconnected web of existence. At the heart of this message lies the idea of awareness. Awareness is the key that unlocks the door to personal and collective transformation. It is not a state of knowing all the answers, but of being willing to explore, to observe, and to challenge what has been taken for granted. The call to awareness is not about separating ourselves from others, nor is it about placing ourselves above others. It is not a journey of self-righteousness or arrogance, but one of humility and shared understanding. In fact, true awareness often leads us to recognize the interconnectedness of all things, to see that we are not isolated beings, but part of a greater whole. This realization is liberating. It frees us from the constraints of ego and allows us to see the world and our place in it with clarity and compassion. In that clarity, we find the ability to make more intentional choices, to live with purpose, and to act in ways that align with our deepest values. We live in a world where convenience is often prioritized over complexity, where the easy answers are preferred over the uncomfortable truth. But the truth, as it has always been, does not shout, it waits. It waits for those willing to listen, to question, and to look deeper. The truth is not hidden, but it is often obscured by the distractions and noise of daily life. It is waiting for those who are ready to see it, not as something imposed from the outside, but as something that resonates deeply within. This is where the invitation lies. It is not about adopting someone else's truth or subscribing to a new set of beliefs. Awareness requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, to question long-held beliefs, and to challenge the systems of power and control that have shaped our lives. It requires courage, patience, and a deep sense of responsibility. But it is also a journey of liberation. It is a journey that will allow you to break free from the constraints of the past and step into a new understanding of yourself and your place in the world. It is about looking inside yourself, reconnecting with your own intuition, and reclaiming your own capacity for understanding. It is about recognizing that you are the one who holds the key to your own awareness, and that the journey toward truth is a deeply personal one. The answers are not out there, waiting to be found in some external place, but within you, waiting to be rediscovered. As you begin this journey, know that it will not be an easy one. This message is not about presenting a new doctrine or belief system to follow. It is about awakening the dormant curiosity within you. The curiosity that seeks to understand, to learn, and to grow. It is about creating space for new questions to arise, for new insights to emerge. It is about fostering a mindset that values inquiry over certainty, that sees the process of learning as more important than the destination. As we move forward, remember that this journey is not about achieving perfection or reaching an endpoint. It is about engaging with the process itself. It is about the small shifts in perception, the subtle changes in awareness, and the deepening understanding that comes from within. The truth that awaits is not something that can be handed to you. It is something that you must seek, uncover, and embrace for yourself. In this quest for truth, there is no need to feel superior or special. The pursuit of awareness is not about elevating oneself above others, but about recognizing the shared humanity that connects us all. It is about understanding that the truths we uncover are not meant to divide, but to unite. The more we understand, the more we see that we are all part of a greater, interconnected whole, bound together by our shared experience and our shared potential. These revolutions, whether political, religious, or intellectual, have been driven by a shift in awareness, a shift in the collective understanding of truth. When people begin to recognize the discrepancies between what they are told and what they experience, they are compelled to act. This is the power of truth. It creates a ripple effect that spreads across societies, challenging the status quo and transforming individuals and communities in the process. But the awakening is not always an easy process. It requires a willingness to face uncomfortable truths and to confront the systems that have been built to protect falsehoods. The journey toward awareness is often fraught with resistance, both internal and external. Those who are awakening to the truth often face ridicule, alienation, and even persecution. But this is the price of progress, the cost of breaking free from the chains of ignorance and control. In societies that fear the awakening of awareness, silence often becomes the safer option. This is not to say that silence is inherently dangerous, but in a society where truth is suppressed and dissent is met with hostility, silence becomes a survival mechanism. In these societies, speaking out or challenging the accepted norms can be seen as an act of defiance, one that may lead to ostracization, punishment, or worse. And so, silence becomes a tool of self-preservation. Silence, however, is not a passive act. It is a choice, one made out of fear, complacency, or a desire to maintain the status quo. In cultures where truth is suppressed, silence can be as powerful as rebellion. It becomes a tool for maintaining the existing power structures and preventing the awakening of the masses. In this context, silence is not just the absence of speech, it is the absence of awareness, the absence of curiosity, and the absence of change. The history of oppression is littered with examples of silence as a strategy for survival. The enslaved peoples of the American South, for example, were often silenced by the threat of violence, but they also found ways to resist the silencing. They told stories, passed down knowledge, and maintained their sense of identity, despite the attempts to suppress their voices. The silencing of truth is not absolute. It can be resisted, and it can be broken, but it requires immense courage and collective action. In modern times, we continue to see this pattern play out. People are still silenced, whether through censorship, social pressure, or the fear of losing status, security, or approval. In many ways, this silencing is even more insidious now, as it often happens in more subtle forms through the manipulation of media, the control of information, and the marginalization of dissenting voices. And yet, despite this silencing, truth persists. It waits for those who are willing to hear it, to recognize it, and to speak it into being. Conclusion. The awakening of truth. In the face of power's suppression of truth, it is essential to remember that truth cannot be fully erased. It is the act of questioning everything, of peeling back the layers of societal conditioning, and of recognizing the unseen forces that shape our world. Awareness brings with it responsibility, and with responsibility comes the power to make a difference. The suppression of truth may have shaped the past, but it is the embrace of truth that will shape the future. Throughout history, there have been figures, some immortalized in texts, others lost to time, who were said to be chosen. It may be hidden, distorted, or silenced, but it always finds a way to re-emerge. This re-emergence is what drives change. It is the awakening of awareness that has the power to transform individuals and societies alike. The journey toward truth is not always easy, and it is often met with resistance, but it is through this resistance that real progress is made. The awakening to truth is not a singular event, it is a continual process, one that requires patience, courage, and resilience. These individuals, celebrated as extraordinary, were often heralded as embodying divine purpose or superior status. Yet, the true meaning of being chosen has been obscured over time, distorted to justify domination, oppression, and control. The term has come to imply an elevation of one individual or group above others, reinforcing hierarchies rather than embracing a deeper, more inclusive purpose. In its original form, however, to be chosen was not to be exalted above others, but to carry a weighty responsibility, to be entrusted with the duty of guiding, protecting, and uplifting others. The misconception that being chosen means being anointed for greatness has led to centuries of misuse. Many leaders and rulers throughout history have claimed to be chosen by divine will, positioning themselves above others in a quest for power and influence. These leaders often sought to control and manipulate, presenting themselves as the ultimate authority, the embodiment of divine favor, with the right to rule over others. This interpretation of being chosen has perpetuated systems of domination, fueling the notion that power should be wielded as a tool of control rather than a means of stewardship. Yet, the original meaning of being chosen was not about personal elevation. To be chosen was to bear the burden of responsibility, not to impose power over others, but to serve and protect, to bring balance, healing, and wisdom. This understanding is vital, for it redefines the role of leadership and challenges the very foundations upon which systems of power have been built. True leadership, in this sense, is not about claiming dominion over others, but about guiding them with wisdom, empathy, and integrity. The distortion of the concept of being chosen has deep roots in history, particularly in the ways that rulers and authorities have justified their actions. This misapplication of the term has been particularly evident in religious, political, and imperial contexts. Take, for example, the divine right of kings, a doctrine that held sway in many cultures throughout history. Colonizers often viewed themselves as chosen by God or fate to bring civilization to the uncivilized world. In doing so, they justified their dominance over indigenous populations, claiming that their superior knowledge, culture, and religion gave them the right to subjugate and exploit others. This belief system posited that monarchs were chosen by God to rule, granting them absolute power and authority over their subjects. The notion of divine right served as a convenient justification for tyrannical rule, reinforcing the idea that rulers were above reproach and accountable to no one but God. The misuse of the term chosen extended far beyond monarchs. In many cases, it was used to rationalize colonialism and imperialism. This warped interpretation of being chosen perpetuated the cycle of oppression, stripping away the humanity of those deemed other, and placing the chosen in a position of authority based on nothing more than arbitrary power dynamics. This distorted view of being chosen continues to echo in modern times. Whether in politics, business, or religion, the idea of being chosen is still often tied to a sense of superiority, entitlement, and control. Leaders who claim to be chosen frequently use this rhetoric to manipulate followers, creating systems of dependency and fear that discourage questioning or dissent. In this sense, the term chosen becomes a tool of division, fostering inequality and consolidating power in the hands of a few. However, if we return to the original meaning of the term, we see that the true calling of those who are chosen is not to dominate, but to serve. It is not about elevating oneself above others, but about recognizing the interconnectedness of all people and the responsibility that comes with leadership. True leadership has always been about more than wielding power. It has been about preserving and passing on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Leaders like Cleopatra, whose reign over ancient Egypt is remembered as a time of cultural and intellectual flourishing, embodied this form of leadership. Cleopatra was not only a political leader, but also a scholar and a custodian of knowledge. She was well versed in mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and multiple languages, and she used this knowledge to guide her people through turbulent times. Cleopatra's role as a leader was not defined solely by her ability to command armies or negotiate with foreign powers. Her true strength lay in her ability to preserve and protect the knowledge that was passed down through generations. In many ways, she was a steward of wisdom, ensuring that the teachings of the ancients were not lost to the sands of time. In an era when intellectual pursuits were often suppressed or lost in the chaos of war, Cleopatra understood the importance of safeguarding knowledge and passing it on to future generations. Her leadership was rooted in an understanding that true power comes from the ability to preserve and transmit knowledge, not from the ability to control others. The purpose of this journey is not just to discover new truths, but to become more aware of the deeper, often unseen aspects of life that shape our world. It is about seeing the invisible forces at play, whether they are societal, psychological, or spiritual, and recognizing how they influence our choices, our relationships, and our understanding of ourselves. Awareness allows us to transcend the limitations of our environment and connect with the larger, more universal truths that lie beyond the surface. In the end, this message is not a call to perfection, but a call to presence. It is not about knowing all the answers, but about becoming more attuned to the questions that matter. It is about reclaiming your power to choose, to question, and to grow. It is an invitation to reconnect with the deeper truths that have always been within you, waiting to be discovered. So, take a deep breath, open your mind, and begin the journey of reconnecting with the truth that is waiting for you. The idea of truth has always been a paradox, both powerful and fragile. Truth, in its purest form, is a force of nature that cannot be easily contained, shaped, or bent. Yet throughout history, it has been hidden, reframed, and suppressed by those in power. This suppression is not always an overt act of violence or censorship, but often a quiet, systemic distortion that serves the interests of those who benefit from maintaining control. Truth, it seems, is more dangerous to those who wield authority than any physical weapon. The very existence of truth threatens the fragile order of systems built on manipulation and dominance. The role of power in the suppression of truth is undeniable. In the ancient world, when knowledge was often confined to a privileged few, truth was more than just information, it was a tool of control. Those who held knowledge also held power. Ancient rulers, priests, and philosophers understood this intimately. Knowledge was kept within closed circles, not because it was inherently dangerous, but because it held the potential to shake the foundations of the social order. Think of the philosophers, the mystics, and the scientists who questioned the prevailing worldview, only to be labeled dangerous, unstable, or even heretical. Societies, both ancient and modern, have long resisted challenges to dominant belief systems. The fear wasn't that the challengers lacked truth, but that their truth had the potential to weaken, if not dismantle, the very structures of power that kept the ruling class in control. The truth was weaponized to create and maintain systems of authority, control, and hierarchy. By controlling the narrative, what was known, and what was allowed to remain unknown, the powerful could keep the masses in check. The history of humankind is riddled with examples of those who dared to challenge the accepted truths of their time, only to be silenced or erased from the historical record. Take, for example, the philosopher Socrates, who questioned the very foundations of Athenian democracy and the gods of the city. His relentless pursuit of truth led to his execution. A stark reminder of how societies have historically reacted to those who dare to question their constructed reality. Socrates was not executed because he lacked truth. Rather, his truth was inconvenient. It threatened the fabric of the city's identity and its systems of control. His execution sent a clear message: those who challenge the status quo will face dire consequences. This dynamic is not limited to ancient history. In more recent times, figures like Galileo Galilei, Charles Darwin, and even Martin Luther King Jr. have all faced intense opposition, not because their ideas were false, but because they revealed uncomfortable truths. Galileo's advocacy for the heliocentric model of the universe contradicted the geocentric model that had long been upheld by the Catholic Church. Darwin's theory of evolution threatened the religious orthodoxy of his time by challenging the biblical account of creation. And Martin Luther King Jr., with his vision of racial equality, challenged the deeply ingrained systems of racial segregation in America. Truth threatened the legitimacy of those in power, and so it was often suppressed, ignored, or twisted to fit the narrative of the powerful. The suppression of truth is not simply an intellectual exercise. It has real-world consequences. When truth is suppressed, individuals are deprived of the opportunity to see the world as it truly is. They are trapped in a distorted reality that is manufactured to maintain power and control. In each case, the truth that these individuals brought forward was suppressed or rejected because it stood in direct opposition to entrenched systems of control and authority. The common thread in these stories is not just the rejection of new ideas, but the deeply ingrained resistance to truth itself. The belief systems, societal structures, and political systems that people relied on for stability were fragile in the face of truth. This distortion not only keeps people from understanding the complexities of the world, but also perpetuates the cycles of oppression and inequality that have plagued societies for centuries. The consequences of silencing dissent are profound. When people are denied access to truth, they are often unable to challenge the systems that oppress them. This creates a passive society, one in which individuals accept their circumstances because they have been conditioned to believe that things are as they should be. It is only when the truth begins to surface, when the veil is lifted, that individuals are able to see the discrepancies between their lived reality and the one they have been taught to accept. This awakening can be both liberating and terrifying. Consider the cultural and social revolutions that have occurred throughout history. But the awakening is not always an easy process. It requires a willingness to face uncomfortable truths and to confront the systems that have been built to protect falsehoods. The journey toward awareness is often fraught with resistance, both internal and external. Those who are awakening to the truth often face ridicule, alienation, and even persecution. But this is the price of progress, the cost of breaking free from the chains of ignorance and control. In societies that fear the awakening of awareness, silence often becomes the safer option. This is not to say that silence is inherently dangerous, but in a society where truth is suppressed and dissent is met with hostility, silence becomes a survival mechanism. In these societies, speaking out or challenging the accepted norms can be seen as an act of defiance, one that may lead to ostracization, punishment, or worse. And so, silence becomes a tool of self-preservation. Silence, however, is not a passive act. It is a choice, one made out of fear, complacency, or a desire to maintain the status quo. In cultures where truth is suppressed, silence can be as powerful as rebellion. It becomes a tool for maintaining the existing power structures and preventing the awakening of the masses. In this context, silence is not just the absence of speech, it is the absence of awareness, the absence of curiosity, and the absence of change. The history of oppression is littered with examples of silence as a strategy for survival. The enslaved peoples of the American South, for example, were often silenced by the threat of violence, but they also found ways to resist the silencing. They told stories, passed down knowledge, and maintained their sense of identity, despite the attempts to suppress their voices. The silencing of truth is not absolute. It can be resisted, and it can be broken, but it requires immense courage and collective action. In modern times, we continue to see this pattern play out. People are still silenced, whether through censorship, social pressure, or the fear of losing status, security, or approval. In many ways, this silencing is even more insidious now, as it often happens in more subtle forms through the manipulation of media, the control of information, and the marginalization of dissenting voices. And yet, despite this silencing, truth persists. It waits for those who are willing to hear it, to recognize it, and to speak it into being. Conclusion. The awakening of truth. In the face of power's suppression of truth, it is essential to remember that truth cannot be fully erased. It may be hidden, distorted, or silenced, but it always finds a way to re-emerge. This re-emergence is what drives change. It is the awakening of awareness that has the power to transform individuals and societies alike. The journey toward truth is not always easy, and it is often met with resistance, but it is through this resistance that real progress is made. The awakening to truth is not a singular event, it is a continual process, one that requires patience, courage, and resilience. These individuals, celebrated as extraordinary, were often heralded as embodying divine purpose or superior status. Yet, the true meaning of being chosen has been obscured over time, distorted to justify domination, oppression, and control. The term has come to imply an elevation of one individual or group above others, reinforcing hierarchies rather than embracing a deeper, more inclusive purpose. It is the act of questioning everything, of peeling back the layers of societal conditioning, and of recognizing the unseen forces that shape our world. Awareness brings with it responsibility, and with responsibility comes the power to make a difference. The suppression of truth may have shaped the past, but it is the embrace of truth that will shape the future. Throughout history, there have been figures, some immortalized in texts, others lost to time, who were said to be chosen. In its original form, however, to be chosen was not to be exalted above others, but to carry a weighty responsibility, to be entrusted with the duty of guiding, protecting, and uplifting others. The misconception that being chosen means being anointed for greatness has led to centuries of misuse. Many leaders and rulers throughout history have claimed to be chosen by divine will, positioning themselves above others in a quest for power and influence. These leaders often sought to control and manipulate, presenting themselves as the ultimate authority, the embodiment of divine favor, with the right to rule over others. This interpretation of being chosen has perpetuated systems of domination, fueling the notion that power should be wielded as a tool of control rather than a means of stewardship. Yet, the original meaning of being chosen was not about personal elevation. To be chosen was to bear the burden of responsibility, not to impose power over others, but to serve and protect, to bring balance, healing, and wisdom. This understanding is vital, for it redefines the role of leadership and challenges the very foundations upon which systems of power have been built. True leadership, in this sense, is not about claiming dominion over others, but about guiding them with wisdom, empathy, and integrity. The distortion of the concept of being chosen has deep roots in history, particularly in the ways that rulers and authorities have justified their actions. This misapplication of the term has been particularly evident in religious, political, and imperial contexts. Take, for example, the divine right of kings, a doctrine that held sway in many cultures throughout history. This belief system posited that monarchs were chosen by God to rule, granting them absolute power and authority over their subjects. The notion of divine right served as a convenient justification for tyrannical rule. reinforcing the idea that rulers were above reproach and accountable to no one but God. The misuse of the term chosen extended far beyond monarchs. In many cases, it was used to rationalize colonialism and imperialism. Colonizers often viewed themselves as chosen by God or fate to bring civilization to the uncivilized world. In doing so, they justified their dominance over indigenous populations, claiming that their superior knowledge, culture, and religion gave them the right to subjugate and exploit others. Leaders who claimed to be chosen frequently used this rhetoric to manipulate followers, creating systems of dependency and fear that discourage questioning or dissent. In this sense, the term chosen becomes a tool of division, fostering inequality and consolidating power in the hands of a few. However, if we return to the original meaning of the term, we see that the true calling of those who are chosen is not to dominate, but to serve. This warped interpretation of being chosen perpetuated the cycle of oppression, stripping away the humanity of those deemed other, and placing the chosen in a position of authority based on nothing more than arbitrary power dynamics. This distorted view of being chosen continues to echo in modern times. Whether in politics, business, or religion, the idea of being chosen is still often tied to a sense of superiority, entitlement, and control. It is not about elevating oneself above others, but about recognizing the interconnectedness of all people and the responsibility that comes with leadership. True leadership has always been about more than wielding power. It has been about preserving and passing on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Leaders like Cleopatra, whose reign over ancient Egypt is remembered as a time of cultural and intellectual flourishing, embodied this form of leadership. Cleopatra was not only a political leader, but also a scholar and a custodian of knowledge. She was well versed in mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and multiple languages, and she used this knowledge to guide her people through turbulent times. Cleopatra's role as a leader was not defined solely by her ability to command armies or negotiate with foreign powers. Her true strength lay in her ability to preserve and protect the knowledge that was passed down through generations. In many ways, she was a steward of wisdom, ensuring that the teachings of the ancients were not lost to the sands of time. In an era when intellectual pursuits were often suppressed or lost in the chaos of war, Cleopatra understood the importance of safeguarding knowledge and passing it on to future generations. Her leadership was rooted in an understanding that true power comes from the ability to preserve and transmit knowledge, not from the ability to control others. By embracing the role of a custodian of knowledge, Cleopatra demonstrated that leadership is not about subjugation, but about stewardship. Her reign serves as a powerful reminder that the role of a leader is to protect, nurture, and cultivate the wisdom that exists within a society, ensuring that it is not lost to history. This concept of leadership extends far beyond Cleopatra. Throughout history, there have been countless leaders who, while often overshadowed by the political dynamics of their time, played crucial roles in preserving knowledge and fostering intellectual growth. Think of the scholars of the Islamic Golden Age, whose contributions to mathematics, science, and philosophy helped lay the foundation for the European Renaissance. Or the great philosophers of ancient Greece, whose ideas continue to shape modern thought. These individuals were not just leaders in the traditional sense of the word, but custodians of knowledge, protecting, preserving, and passing it on to future generations. To be chosen, in this sense, is not to claim power over others, but to carry the weight of responsibility for what is sacred and valuable, the knowledge and wisdom that can shape the world for the better. True leaders understand that their role is not to dominate or control, but to guide, protect, and uplift others through the sharing of wisdom. At the heart of all leadership, particularly in the context of the chosen, is the understanding that power does not lie in domination, but in awareness. Ancient philosophies, from the teachings of Confucius to the wisdom of the Greek philosophers, emphasize the importance of balance between chaos and order. The idea of Ma'at, the Egyptian goddess of truth and justice, symbolized this balance. She was not just a deity, but a principle that guided both the spiritual and political realms of Egypt. The pharaohs, as custodians of Ma'at, were tasked with maintaining this balance and ensuring that chaos did not overrun the land. These traditions understood that true power comes not from imposing one's will upon the world, but from understanding the world as it is and responding with clarity and intention. In ancient Egypt, for example, the balance between chaos and order was not just a philosophical concept, but a guiding principle of governance. The Egyptians understood that the forces of chaos, disorder, entropy, and destruction must be balanced with the forces of order, law, structure, and wisdom. This philosophy teaches us that true power lies not in the ability to dominate or control, but in the ability to navigate the complex forces of life with wisdom and understanding. Leadership is not about bending the world to one's will, but about responding to the world's complexities with awareness and intention. It is about finding balance between order and chaos, between individual desires and collective needs, between strength and compassion. The idea of awareness as the foundation of power is especially relevant in today's world. In a time when the forces of chaos, political instability, economic disparity, and environmental destruction are more pronounced than ever, the need for leaders who can navigate these challenges with clarity and understanding is paramount. True leadership today requires not just the ability to act, but the ability to listen, to reflect, and to adapt. It is a leadership that seeks to heal, to restore balance, and to guide society toward a more just and equitable future. The role of the chosen in history is not one of elevation, but of responsibility. It is not about domination, but about awareness and stewardship. Leaders like Cleopatra understood that their true power lay not in their ability to command others, but in their ability to preserve and pass on the wisdom of the ancients. The value of awareness, of understanding the world in all its complexity, is the foundation of true power. As we reflect on the history of those who were chosen, we must recognize that their greatness lay not in their status or authority, but in their ability to guide, protect, and uplift others through the sharing of knowledge and wisdom. As we dive deeper into the true role of the chosen throughout history, we must explore how this concept has been entwined with human struggle, wisdom, and leadership. There is much more to understand beyond the superficial notion of the chosen as those with power or privilege. When we shift our focus away from the idea of domination and towards the essence of responsibility and awareness, we can truly grasp what it means to be chosen in a way that transcends time, culture, and circumstance. The term chosen has evolved over millennia, and as it has passed from one generation to the next, it has often been warped by those seeking to consolidate power. In ancient times, the chosen were seen as the ones who carried the sacred knowledge, those who understood the deep forces of the world and could connect with the divine. They were not seen as rulers over others, but as intermediaries between the divine and the earthly realms, individuals who were tasked with maintaining balance, peace, and wisdom. In these times, the idea of being chosen was not synonymous with superiority. It was not about being above others, but rather about holding a responsibility to guide, teach, and protect. For instance, many ancient rulers, including Cleopatra, were revered not only for their political prowess, but for their profound understanding of the world around them. Their leadership was rooted in the belief that true power came from knowledge, balance, and the ability to integrate both the chaotic and orderly elements of life. In today's world, we continue to witness this misuse of the term. Political leaders, corporate moguls, and even celebrities often claim to be chosen or anointed in some way, using this claim to justify their special status and to manipulate those who follow them. These individuals often redefine chosen as a sign of privilege, wealth, or influence, an indicator that they are above the struggles of ordinary people. Over time, however, the essence of being chosen began to shift. It became entangled with the desires for control, domination, and personal glory. Leaders and rulers began to misuse the idea of being chosen to justify their authority, often employing religion, divine right, or force to suppress their people and maintain a monopoly on power. In this way, The concept of being chosen was no longer about fulfilling a sacred duty but about claiming dominance and elevating oneself above others. They failed to recognize that being chosen is not about elevation, but about service. The misuse of the term chosen today reflects the larger societal issue of power imbalance and control. However, when we reclaim the original meaning of the chosen, we can see how it shifts from a concept of domination to one of responsibility. The real chosen are those who take on the weight of duty, those who step into roles that demand sacrifice, empathy, and a deep commitment to the greater good. They are the ones who understand that true leadership is not about taking, but about giving. In this light, the chosen are often those who transcend the traditional concept of leadership. While political leaders have historically been elevated for their ability to command armies or accumulate wealth, the true role of a leader is to be a custodian of knowledge, culture, and wisdom. Leaders like Cleopatra are prime examples of how a true leader must embody not only political acumen but also intellectual mastery. Cleopatra was far more than a queen who simply reigned over Egypt. She was a scholar, an intellectual force in her own right, steeped in the mysteries of the ancient world. Her leadership was deeply tied to her vast knowledge of mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and languages knowledge that she used to protect Egypt during a time of great political instability. She understood that wisdom was power, not in the sense of wielding it over others, but in the sense of safeguarding it for the betterment of her people. She used her learning and insight to negotiate with Rome, strengthen Egypt's position, and ensure its cultural legacy. The role of the chosen in this context is to carry knowledge, not as a commodity to be hoarded, but as a gift to be shared. Leaders, as custodians of knowledge, pass down the wisdom of the past, while guiding their societies through the challenges of the present. They understand that their purpose is not to hoard power but to use their wisdom to create opportunities for others. This is the true essence of being chosen. In ancient civilizations, many of the so-called rulers were not merely figures of authority. They were the keepers of sacred knowledge, the bridges between humanity and the divine. This was true for leaders in the ancient Egyptian, Greek, and even Sumerian cultures, where the ruler was often seen as a steward of divine wisdom. These leaders were tasked with preserving ancient truths and ensuring that they were passed down to future generations. To be chosen in these societies was to carry the mantle of intellectual and spiritual responsibility, not just political or military might. Today, the world has lost some of this wisdom, but we are still connected to these ancient principles. In the modern world, those who are truly chosen are not those who command the most power or wealth, but those who carry the wisdom and knowledge needed to lead with integrity. Whether it's through intellectual achievements, spiritual guidance, or the preservation of cultural heritage, the role of the leader today remains as a custodian of knowledge and truth. At the heart of true leadership is awareness, the awareness of one's surroundings, of the people one serves, and of the forces at play in the world. Ancient philosophies, particularly those from Eastern traditions and early Western thought, taught us that true power lies not in domination, but in balance. The balance between chaos and order, between the forces of nature and the structures humans impose on them, is the key to understanding both the universe and our place within it. In ancient Egypt, this balance was exemplified in the concept of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic balance. Ma'at represented the perfect equilibrium between chaos and order, a balance that rulers were tasked with maintaining. The pharaohs, as custodians of Ma'at, were not seen as supreme rulers with unchecked authority, but as stewards of balance responsible for maintaining order in society, protecting the land, and ensuring that justice was upheld. In this sense, they were chosen not for their ability to impose control, but for their ability to understand and maintain balance. Similarly, in ancient Greece, philosophers like Plato and Aristotle emphasized the importance of balance in governance. They argued that societies must seek a balance between the ideal forms of government, whether monarchy, aristocracy, or democracy, lest they fall into chaos. True power, they believed, lay in understanding these balances and responding to the needs of the people with wisdom and foresight. This idea of balance extends to the individual level as well. The true chosen are not those who seek to dominate or impose their will on others, but those who understand the complexities of the world and navigate them with clarity. They know that true power is not about control, but about the ability to adapt and respond to life's challenges with thoughtfulness and purpose. It is about understanding the forces of chaos, those unexpected twists of fate, the unpredictable elements of life, and bringing them into harmony with order, structure, and responsibility. Awareness, then, is the cornerstone of true power. It is the ability to see beyond surface appearances, to understand the deeper currents that shape our world, and to navigate these forces with wisdom and care. The chosen, in this sense, are those who have developed this awareness, who can see not just what is happening in the present moment, but also the long-term consequences of their actions. In today's world, we are bombarded by constant noise, social media, political rhetoric, economic pressures, all vying for our attention. The challenge for modern leaders, and for all of us, is to rise above the distractions and tune into the deeper currents of life. To be truly chosen today is not to claim superiority over others, but to develop the awareness to see the world for what it is, and to act with purpose, integrity, and responsibility. The role of the chosen in history is not about domination, but about the awareness of truth, the stewardship of knowledge, and the ability to find balance in a world filled with chaos. It is about taking on the responsibility of leadership not to control, but to guide, to protect, and to nurture. Leaders like Cleopatra understood this deeply. Their power lay not in their ability to command, but in their ability to preserve knowledge, protect their people, and maintain balance. The true chosen are those who have the awareness to see the complexities of the world, and who understand that true power comes from wisdom, responsibility, and balance. They are the ones who carry the mantle of leadership with humility, knowing that their role is not to elevate themselves above others, but to serve the greater good. In embracing this deeper understanding of being chosen, we can all find the strength and wisdom to lead our own lives with purpose and integrity, guiding others toward a future shaped by balance, knowledge, and compassion. Awareness is more than just a passive understanding. It is an active force that drives transformation, both within the individual and across societies. True power, often misunderstood as force, control, or dominance, actually lies in the quiet but profound capacity to awaken one's awareness. Power, in its most authentic form, does not demand belief or blind allegiance. It beckons to the heart and mind to understand, to grasp the deeper truths that are often obscured by surface distractions. This realization is the key to personal empowerment, and it begins with the recognition that the power to change resides within us, waiting for us to awaken it. True power is not something that is simply handed to you, nor is it something that can be seized by force. In its purest form, power is an invitation to understand the world as it is, to see through the illusions of control and domination, and to embrace a more profound connection with our own inner selves. Unlike the power derived from fear, guilt, and shame, which seeks to coerce and subjugate, true power operates on a different plane. It operates in the quiet space of awareness, where clarity guides action and understanding replaces force. Power maintained through fear and guilt is fleeting. It exists only as long as the fear of retribution or punishment is present, and it ultimately breaks down under the weight of its own instability. Those who wield power through these means cannot sustain their control indefinitely, because fear and guilt are not foundations upon which lasting influence can be built. True power, on the other hand, is grounded in understanding of oneself, others, and the world. When we step into awareness, we begin to see through the veils of illusion that bind us, and in doing so, we unlock a deeper, more sustainable form of strength. This shift is the first step toward breaking free from the systems that have been designed to keep us small, dependent, and unaware of our own potential. To truly awaken to power, we must first recognize the nature of the control that has shaped our lives. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned by societal norms, expectations, and systems that dictate how we should think, behave, and perceive the world. Awakening this kind of power is not an overnight process, nor is it a sudden, dramatic transformation. It is a gradual unfolding, a process of peeling back the layers of conditioning, limitation, and false beliefs that have been imposed upon us by external forces. It begins with a shift in perception, a willingness to question, to look deeper, and to confront the uncomfortable truths that may have been hidden for far too long. These systems of control, whether in the form of family structures, educational systems, political regimes, or media influence, create a world where we often live in a state of dependence. We rely on external authorities to define who we are, what we can do, and how we should live our lives. But true freedom begins with the recognition that much of the control exerted over us is not natural, it is constructed. It is a product of societal design, and it exists only because we have allowed it to. The moment we realize this, we begin to break free from its grasp. Awareness is the first step in this process of liberation. By seeing the control for what it truly is, a set of ideas, beliefs, and systems imposed upon us, we can begin to deconstruct it and build our own path, free from the constraints of inherited limitations. This realization is both liberating and challenging. It requires us to take responsibility for our own lives, to recognize that the power to shape our destiny lies within us. We are no longer victims of circumstance or passive recipients of a prescribed life path. Instead, we become active participants in the creation of our own future. This shift in consciousness is the birth of autonomy, the ability to make choices based on our own values, desires, and understanding of the world. It is the ability to stand firm in our truth, regardless of external pressures, and to navigate the world with clarity and confidence. When we break free from control, we are no longer bound by the expectations of others. We are no longer subject to the whims of society, and we no longer feel the need to conform in order to gain acceptance or approval. This is the essence of true freedom, the ability to think for ourselves, to act with purpose, and to live authentically. The control that once seemed so absolute begins to dissolve, replaced by a new sense of power that is rooted in awareness, responsibility, and choice. As we awaken to this new sense of power, we must also recognize the importance of humility and clarity in shaping how we use that power. True clarity does not stem from a place of superiority or arrogance. It arises from a deep understanding of our own limitations and a commitment to act with compassion and responsibility. It is the recognition that we are all part of something larger than ourselves, and that our actions have an impact on the world around us. True clarity requires humility, because it asks us to let go of our ego-driven need for control and to trust in the wisdom that comes from within. Clarity, when paired with humility, becomes a powerful force for change. It allows us to see through the noise and distractions of daily life, to focus on what truly matters, and to act with intention. It is not about knowing everything or having all the answers, but about seeing clearly enough to make decisions that align with our highest values and the greater good. Humility, in this context, is not a passive virtue. It is an active force that allows us to approach life with an open heart and mind. Humility is the acknowledgement that no one has all the answers, and that our understanding of the world is always evolving. Clarity does not come from asserting dominance over others or seeking to impose our will on the world. Instead, it comes from the ability to step back, observe, and respond thoughtfully to the situations we face. It is the ability to discern what is true and what is false, what is helpful and what is harmful, and to act in accordance with that discernment. When we operate from a place of humility and clarity, we are able to make decisions that are not driven by fear, insecurity, or the need for validation. Instead, we act with purpose, guided by our deepest values and a clear understanding of the consequences of our actions. This form of leadership, whether in our personal lives or in our interactions with others, creates a ripple effect of positive change. It inspires those around us to act with integrity and responsibility, creating a cycle of awareness, compassion, and growth. True influence, in its most authentic form, is not about coercion, manipulation, or the exercise of power over others. It is about the quiet strength that comes from self-awareness, humility, and clarity. Those who influence others in a meaningful way do not do so through force or intimidation, but through the power of their presence, their example, and their ability to inspire. They are the ones who lead not by command, but by invitation. Real influence begins with the understanding that our power is not external, but internal. It is the ability to influence the world around us by first transforming ourselves. When we awaken to our own potential, when we break free from the limitations of control and conditioning, we begin to radiate a quiet power that others can sense. This power is not imposed upon others, it is shared through empathy, understanding, and respect. It is the kind of influence that shifts the energy of a room, that inspires others to rise to their highest potential, and that creates positive change without the need for force. This is the true power of awareness, the ability to transform not only ourselves but the world around us. It is the power to act with clarity and intention, to break free from the control that has held us back, and to influence others through our example. It is the power to lead with humility, to recognize our own limitations, and to use our understanding of the world to create a more just, compassionate, and balanced society. The hidden power of awareness is not an external force, it is an internal awakening that unlocks the potential within each of us. As we awaken to this power, we must recognize that it is not about control or domination, but about understanding and responsibility. True power lies in the ability to see the world as it is, to break free from the illusions of control, and to lead with humility, clarity, and compassion. When we embrace this awareness, we step into our true potential and become catalysts for positive change in the world. This is the essence of the power that lies within us all, a power that can transform not only our lives, but the lives of those around us. Life, by its very nature, is a journey filled with challenges, obstacles, and hardships. It is easy to view these difficulties as burdens, to see them as punishments, or even as barriers that prevent us from reaching our goals. But this view is not only limiting, it is also an illusion. Life's challenges are not there to break us, they are there to shape us. They are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth, for transformation, and for the development of strength and resilience that we would never have access to in moments of ease and comfort. It is in the face of adversity that we discover who we truly are and what we are truly capable of. Every hardship, every struggle, and every painful moment is a teacher that, if we allow ourselves to learn from it, will impart invaluable lessons about strength, resilience, and transformation. In times of difficulty, we are given a choice. We can either be defeated by the hardship, allowing it to break our spirit, or we can rise above it, allowing it to refine us. This choice does not come easily. The way we approach challenges can determine not only the outcome of those challenges, but also our own personal evolution. Too often, we view difficulties as punishments, as something to be avoided at all costs. We fear them, resist them, and wish them away. But the greatest lesson we can learn is to embrace adversity rather than running from it. It is often easier to fall into despair, to succumb to self-pity or bitterness, and to see the world through the lens of suffering. But when we make the conscious decision to face adversity with courage and strength, we open ourselves up to the possibilities of transformation. It is in adversity that we discover our true potential. Every challenge is a chance to tap into reserves of strength we didn't know we had. Every setback is an opportunity to refine our character, to deepen our resilience, and to clarify our purpose. When we approach life's hardships not as obstacles to be avoided, but as opportunities to grow, we change the way we experience the world. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance and begin to see ourselves as agents of change, capable of navigating even the most difficult circumstances with grace and wisdom. Pain, in particular, has a unique role in this process. It is often through pain that we are shaped the most. Whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual pain, it has the power to break us or to build us. Pain forces us to confront our vulnerabilities, to face the aspects of ourselves that we might prefer to ignore, and to acknowledge our limitations. But it is only through this confrontation that we can truly transform. Pain is not something to fear. It is a tool, a catalyst for growth, a necessary part of the human experience. Patience is not just the ability to endure hardship. It is the ability to endure hardship with purpose, to remain calm and composed while navigating through life's storms. It is the skill to align our actions with our deeper sense of purpose, allowing us to build momentum over time, even in the face of adversity. When we cultivate patience, we are not simply biding our time, we are actively engaged in the process of growth. Without it, we would never know the depth of our strength or the breadth of our resilience. Pain, when embraced with the right mindset, leads to greater clarity, wisdom, and personal evolution. Patience is the quiet strength that allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace. In a world that values speed, instant gratification, and quick fixes, patience may seem like a rare commodity. But true power lies in the ability to wait, not in passivity, but in active patience. Patience teaches us to trust the journey, to understand that progress is often slow, incremental, and subtle. It allows us to take the long view, to see the bigger picture, and to trust that every step we take, no matter how small, is a step toward our ultimate goal. This patience, when combined with a clear sense of purpose, creates a powerful momentum that propels us forward, even when the path ahead seems uncertain or difficult. Patience is not about waiting passively for things to change. It is about taking deliberate, thoughtful action, even when we cannot see immediate results. It is the understanding that growth takes time, that real transformation is a process, not a single event. This patience helps us stay grounded, even in the most trying of circumstances, allowing us to make decisions from a place of clarity rather than frustration or desperation. Through patience, we develop emotional balance, learning to respond to life's challenges with composure and wisdom rather than reacting impulsively. True patience allows us to stay present, to engage fully in the moment, and to trust that every experience, no matter how challenging, is shaping us in ways that are necessary for our growth. Patience gives us the strength to weather the storms of life without being swept away by them. It helps us to see challenges not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones on our journey toward greater self-awareness and fulfillment. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. The greatest achievers, the most impactful leaders, and the most resilient individuals all share one common trait: they have all failed. But they did not let their failures define them. Instead, they used their mistakes as opportunities for learning and growth. Failure is often seen as a negative experience, something to be avoided at all costs. But in reality, it is one of the most powerful tools we have for personal development. Every mistake carries with it a lesson, an insight, or an opportunity to do better next time. Learning from mistakes is an essential part of embracing life's challenges. When we fail, we are given the opportunity to reflect, to analyze, and to adjust our approach. It is easy to be hard on ourselves when things don't go as planned. We may feel frustrated, embarrassed, or defeated. But instead of seeing failure as a personal indictment, we can choose to view it as a valuable learning experience. By examining what went wrong, understanding the factors that led to the mistake, and reflecting on what we can do differently next time, we turn failure into a stepping stone towards success. The choice to rise above failure is the key to personal transformation. Failure is not a sign that we are incapable. It is a sign that we are trying, that we are pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones, and that we are learning. Every mistake is a chance to refine our skills, deepen our understanding, and sharpen our focus. It is through failure that we learn the most profound lessons about who we are, what we are capable of, and how we can improve. The key to learning from mistakes is to embrace them with an open mind and a compassionate heart. Every time we stumble, we are presented with a choice. We can either remain stuck in our disappointment, or we can pick ourselves up and move forward, stronger and wiser. This resilience, this ability to learn and grow from failure, is what ultimately leads to success. It is the willingness to fail, to make mistakes, and to learn from them that separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stagnant. As we embrace life's challenges and learn from our mistakes, we begin to see them not as obstacles, but as opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to refine our skills, to build resilience, and to gain wisdom. Every challenge, every mistake, and every moment of adversity is a chance to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our world. And with this understanding comes the power to navigate life with purpose, clarity, and strength. The challenges we face in life are not punishments. They are opportunities for growth. Pain, adversity, and failure are not to be feared. They are to be embraced. Through these experiences, we develop strength, resilience, and wisdom that shape us into the people we are meant to be. Patience allows us to stay grounded and focused, aligning our actions with our deeper purpose and creating momentum over time. Mistakes, far from being setbacks, are powerful tools for learning and growth, guiding us on our journey toward personal and professional success. By embracing these challenges with openness and curiosity, we become more aware of our true potential and the power we have to shape our lives. Life's challenges are not barriers, but stepping stones on the path to transformation, and it is through them that we find the strength to rise, again and again, to become the best versions of ourselves. In the journey toward personal empowerment, transformation is both an inevitable and necessary part of the process. It is through the act of breaking free from external labels and societal expectations that we find our true selves. As we explore the path of self-awareness and cultivate compassion and empathy, we begin to understand the deeper forces at play in our lives. Those internal and external forces that shape our actions, beliefs, and decisions. These elements, when fully embraced, allow us to tap into the vast potential that resides within each of us, transforming us into empowered individuals capable of making meaningful change in our lives and in the world around us. One of the most profound challenges we face in life is the pressure to conform to external expectations, the labels that society, family, and peers place upon us. From the moment we are born, we are often given labels that define who we are. Student, employee, daughter, son, and countless others. These labels, while sometimes helpful in organizing our lives, can also become limiting. When we identify too closely with these external definitions, we risk losing sight of who we truly are beneath them. True personal growth begins with stepping outside the confines of these labels. It is the act of questioning who we are beyond the roles we play, beyond the expectations others have for us. This is not to say that we abandon our responsibilities or relationships, but that we recognize that we are more than the labels we wear. We are complex, multifaceted individuals with unique experiences, desires, and strengths. When we break free from the need to live up to others' expectations, we begin to live more authentically, choosing for ourselves the path that aligns with our truest essence. This act of breaking free can be deeply transformative. It often requires courage, as it challenges the very foundation of how we have understood our identity. It may feel uncomfortable at first, as we begin to shed the layers of conditioning and societal expectations. But in this discomfort lies the potential for profound transformation. By embracing our authenticity, by stepping into the fullness of who we are without fear of judgment, we unlock a sense of personal empowerment that is both liberating and deeply fulfilling. Living authentically means rejecting the notion that we need to fit into predefined boxes. It means understanding that our worth is not determined by the labels we wear, but by the choices we make, the values we uphold, and the way we engage with the world. When we embrace our authenticity, we empower ourselves to create lives that are true to who we are, not who others expect us to be. This freedom is the cornerstone of personal transformation, as it allows us to build our lives on the foundation of self-acceptance and inner clarity. This awareness provides us with the insight needed to navigate the complexities of life with clarity, purpose, and authenticity. To be self-aware is to recognize the internal forces that shape our behavior. These forces include our core beliefs, values, and past experiences, all of which influence how we see the world and respond to it. At the heart of personal empowerment lies self-awareness. Without a clear understanding of who we are, our strengths, weaknesses, beliefs, and biases, it is impossible to make intentional choices that align with our true desires and purpose. Self-awareness is the compass that guides us on our journey of transformation. It is the ability to look inward and honestly assess our thoughts, feelings, and motivations, without judgment or fear. Many of these beliefs and patterns are formed early in life, often in response to external pressures, such as family expectations, societal norms, or cultural conditioning. As we grow older, we may continue to operate within the framework of these inherited beliefs, even if they no longer serve us. This is where self-awareness becomes crucial. It allows us to recognize these patterns and choose whether to continue living by them or to forge a new path. Self-awareness also involves understanding our biases, the unconscious assumptions and judgments we make about ourselves and others. These biases can limit our ability to grow, connect, and lead. They shape our perspectives and can often lead to misunderstandings, miscommunications, and missed opportunities. By cultivating self-awareness, we can begin to identify these biases and actively challenge them. This process allows us to move beyond our conditioned responses and make choices that are more aligned with our true values and goals. The journey towards self-awareness is ongoing, as it requires constant reflection and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But as we become more attuned to our inner world, we begin to make decisions that are intentional, grounded in our deepest desires, and aligned with our purpose. This clarity allows us to navigate life with confidence, knowing that we are acting from a place of authenticity and self-understanding. While self-awareness is a critical component of personal empowerment, it is not enough on its own. True empowerment extends beyond the individual and into the realm of relationships. The most empowered individuals are those who not only understand themselves but also demonstrate compassion and empathy toward others. Self-compassion means treating ourselves with the same care, patience, and forgiveness that we would offer to a friend. It is the recognition that we are human, that we make mistakes, and that we are deserving of love and care despite our imperfections. When we embrace self-compassion, we become more resilient in the face of challenges, as we are less likely to succumb to self-criticism and despair. Empathy, on the other hand, allows us to connect deeply with others. Compassion is the ability to feel and show concern for the suffering of others, while empathy is the ability to understand and share in those feelings. Together, they form the foundation of meaningful connections, lasting relationships, and transformative leadership. Compassion for others begins with self-compassion. Before we can extend kindness and understanding to others, we must first be able to offer these gifts to ourselves. It is the ability to see the world from another person's perspective, to understand their feelings and experiences, and to respond with kindness and understanding. In today's fast-paced, often disconnected world, empathy is a rare and precious quality. Yet, it is also one of the most powerful tools we have for building strong, meaningful relationships and creating positive change. When we practice empathy, we foster a sense of connection and community that transcends differences and creates a shared sense of humanity. For leaders, compassion and empathy are especially important. True leadership is not about exercising power over others, but about guiding, supporting, and uplifting those around us. Leaders who lead with compassion are able to create environments where people feel seen, heard, and valued. They inspire loyalty, trust, and collaboration by demonstrating that they care not only about the work that is done, but also about the well-being of those doing the work. In this way, compassion and empathy become the foundation of real influence, as they foster an environment where individuals feel empowered to do their best work. In personal relationships, compassion and empathy allow us to build deeper, more authentic connections. When we approach others with an open heart and mind, we create space for vulnerability, honesty, and understanding. This is the bedrock of meaningful relationships, whether in friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships. The ability to empathize with others' struggles and to show compassion in times of difficulty strengthens the bonds that unite us and helps us navigate life's challenges together. Ultimately, true power is not about domination or control. It is about understanding of oneself and others, and understanding of the world around us. It is about living with purpose and acting in alignment with that purpose. True power is rooted in the ability to navigate life's complexities with humility, clarity, and compassion. It is the quiet strength that comes from self-awareness, the ability to rise above external labels, and the willingness to act with empathy and understanding. When we embrace our personal power, when we step into our authenticity, cultivate self-awareness, and lead with compassion and empathy, we begin to transform not only ourselves, but also the world around us. Our actions ripple outward, touching the lives of others and inspiring them to step into their own power. True power is never about asserting dominance over others. It is about creating space for others to rise alongside us, to live their truth, and to find their purpose. This shared purpose, rooted in mutual understanding and compassion, is what ultimately creates lasting change. It is through our collective empowerment that we can shape a more just, compassionate, and balanced world. True leadership, true influence, and true power are found not in the ability to control or dominate, but in the ability to understand, to empathize, and to act in alignment with our highest values. This is the transformative power of personal empowerment. The ability to create a life that reflects our deepest truth and to inspire others to do the same. As we reflect on the journey of personal empowerment, transformation, and awakening, we come to realize that life's true power does not lie in external circumstances or in the pursuit of fleeting achievements. In a world filled with noise, distractions, and external pressures, it is easy to lose sight of our inner power. We may feel overwhelmed by the chaos of daily life, or burdened by the demands and expectations placed upon us. Yet, it is in these very moments of chaos that we have the greatest opportunity to find our strength. Life is a dance between order and chaos, two forces that, when in balance, create the space for growth, creation, and transformation. Rather, the essence of power resides in our ability to embrace the delicate balance between chaos and order, understanding the unseen forces that guide our lives, and recognizing that change, whether on a personal or collective level, begins from within. This internal awakening is the key to living a life of purpose, clarity, and transformation. It is through our own awareness, choices, and actions that we step into our divine purpose and fulfill the potential that has always resided within us. Chaos is not something to fear. It is a natural part of the human experience. It is the force that challenges us, forces us out of our comfort zones, and pushes us to expand our limits. Chaos teaches us resilience, adaptability, and the ability to thrive in uncertainty. It is through chaos that we learn to navigate the complexities of life, to confront our fears, and to discover who we truly are beneath the surface. But chaos alone is not enough. It must be tempered by order. The principles, values, and structures that give our lives direction and meaning. Order provides us with the clarity, purpose, and focus needed to channel our energy and efforts toward what truly matters. It is through order that we find stability, inner peace, and the ability to manifest our highest potential. Together, chaos and order create the perfect environment for growth, transformation, and self-realization. When we learn to embrace this balance, to move fluidly between the forces of chaos and order, to recognize their interplay in our lives, we unlock the power to shape our reality. We begin to understand that we are not passive participants in the events of our lives, but active creators. Our choices, our awareness, and our ability to navigate life's uncertainties with intention give us the power to direct our lives toward a higher purpose. This is the divine power that resides within each of us. The power to align ourselves with the greater forces of the universe and to manifest our true potential. Now is the time to step into your power. To embrace the truth that you are the architect of your own destiny. Your journey is uniquely yours, and every step you take is imbued with profound meaning and impact. But in order to fully embrace this power, you must first cultivate awareness, patience, and compassion. Awareness is the foundation of all personal growth and transformation. It is the ability to see beyond the surface of life, to recognize the unseen forces that guide our thoughts, actions, and experiences. Awareness allows us to break free from the limitations imposed by external labels and societal expectations. It helps us understand our own beliefs, motivations, and desires, and gives us the clarity to make choices that align with our highest truth. Patience is the companion of awareness. It is the ability to understand and feel the suffering of others, and to respond with kindness and empathy. Compassion begins with self-compassion, the ability to treat ourselves with love, patience, and understanding. When we are kind to ourselves, we cultivate the strength to extend that same kindness to others. Compassion is the foundation of all meaningful relationships and is the key to building a life of purpose, connection, and influence. It is the quiet strength that allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. Patience teaches us that growth takes time and that true transformation is a process, not a destination. It is through patience that we learn to trust in the journey, to remain calm in the face of adversity, and to take deliberate action toward our goals, even when the results are not immediately visible. Compassion is the heart of personal empowerment. Each small action you take, each moment of awareness, patience, and compassion ripples outward, creating a profound impact on the world around you. You may not always see the immediate results of your actions, but trust that every choice you make contributes to the larger tapestry of your life and the lives of those you touch. The power of transformation is cumulative. It is built through small, consistent efforts that, over time, lead to profound change. As you embrace your divine purpose, trust that you are guided every step of the way. Your journey may not always be easy, and there may be moments of doubt, struggle, or uncertainty. But know that every challenge you face is an opportunity for growth, and every moment of discomfort is a stepping stone toward your greater self. By embracing the balance of chaos and order, by cultivating awareness, patience, and compassion, you will begin to see your life transform in ways you never thought possible. You are the creator of your own reality, the architect of your own destiny. The divine power that resides within you is ready to awaken, to guide you on a path of purpose, fulfillment, and profound transformation. Trust in your journey. Embrace your power. Know that you are capable of more than you realize, and that the world is waiting for you to step into your full potential. The time is now.